Obviously, a lot of fans here tonight.
A few.
So maybe let's start with one of the things that I found so compelling is the casting choices you made for this series. And I think it's a point that can't be underestimated enough, because when you look at the history of sort of terrorism depicted in TV, it's always, even until recently, people who were not Arabic speakers playing the Arabic-speaking roles. And I remember last year watching 24's reboot, the pilot episode, and on the screen, right as the episode ended, the credits come up, Jihadi number 1, Jihadi number 2, Jihadi number 3. And I kid not, I looked this up today because it said Peter, Mario, and Julius. And I was like, okay, first of all, they don't even have names as characters, and second of all, they are not played by. So I want to hear, that's sort of a long way of introducing the question of what was the considerations behind the kind of casting you did?
Casting in general was not an easy task, but I think that we started with one very kind of a bet, a big bet, and that was Lior Raz. And back then when we started, but for us it was pretty natural and authentic. You know, we wanted it to be authentic, that the Arab characters would be Arabs, the Jewish characters would be Jewish. That was it. It was pretty easy.
And in a way, though, very groundbreaking, because you do not see that very often. When you saw that in previous depictions, did you sort of like think like this is not authentic? When you, as a viewer, even of those kind of.
I think that hi everyone. Hi. I think that for me and for Avi, authenticity was our main concern in everything, in every aspect of the show. It was about the art, about the clothes, about the casting, everything. So we really wanted to have people that the actors, the real actors, will understand, and will understand the way and the place that the Palestinians coming from. And they were Arabs, and in Israel we have plenty of Arabs because it's in Israel, and in Hollywood less probably. So, right?
Right.
And for us as well, you know, the Israeli actors who played in Arabic, we had to study and to learn Arabic for the show. Like Ayub, Captain Ayub, he don't know Arabic at all. So he had to learn phonetically to speak Arabic for the show. But we worked so hard about the accent. You know, I learned for 6 months, I think, just to pronounce well the word that we are speaking, because we wanted to talk Arabic from the region, from Ramallah region. So it's a specific, delicate...
dialect,
yeah. Yeah, thank you. You know this world. Yeah, thank you. So it was, for us, it was very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
How controversial is the series back in your native Israel, if at all? I mean, like I tried to do, you know, as much research as I could before tonight. Obviously, it's very embraced by unlikely corners of, you know, you would think like, oh, I'm surprised by that, but at the same time, I'm not surprised. But has it been controversial?
Was it controversial?
I don't think so.
No.
No, but this was our concern, because in the beginning when we wrote the show, we thought that that people from the right-wingers in Israel will hate us because we're humanizing the terrorists.
Right.
We thought that the left wing will hate us because we are showing like terrorists doing bad stuff and Israeli soldiers doing like unmoral thing.
We thought that Meital and Mirav, our wives that are sitting here tonight, they are the only ones that are going to see the show, more or less.
Yes. And in the end of the day, what happened that I remember that me and Avi, the show went out on Sunday, the first episode, and I told him, you're going to read Haaretz, it's a left-wing newspaper in Israel.
Right.
I will read Makor Rishon, it's a right-wing, and let's see what they're saying about us. And it was like, we called each other and I said, Avi, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. They love us. And he said, yeah, I don't believe it as well. They love us here as well. And what happened, I think, and this is one of the greatest things that happened because of the show, that right-wings in Israel think it's a right-wing show, left-wing think it's a left-wing show, and Palestinians, some of them think it's a Palestinian show, so we're good.
Yeah.
You managed to please all parties, which is virtually impossible to do.
Yeah.
So.
I think that, it reminds me of a story, something that happened to us during the shooting in Kfar Kasem of the second season. And Lior was doing his thing, and they were shooting, and I mean, not shooting, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Shoot it, yeah.
I was shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And two local guys, Palestinians from Kfar Kasem, Israeli Arabs, approached me and said, are you the creator of the show? I said, yes. And they said, we want to be part of the show as actors. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to be Hamas? Do you want to be Fatah? They said, no. We want to be undercover soldiers. And these are two Israeli Palestinians, Arabs, that wants to become undercover soldiers. That was their dream as actors, of course.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Now, were you surprised that the far right didn't, become make this their outrage of the week, or?
Totally. Now, especially in Israel, but not only in Israel, when you have, you have all this kind of either that you're very right-wing or very left-wing, that you cannot just present kind of a TV show that would be interesting. You need to be affiliated with one of the sides. And we really expected, just like Lior mentioned, that would be slaughtered by the critics, that would be slaughtered by the politicians, and everyone embraced us, and everyone liked the show. Even, it's funny, but even with Hamas, it was kind of... No, really, I mean, Hamas, yes, they published a few articles against the show, called it a kind of a Zionist propaganda, saying that it's an Israeli attempt to win Hamas in the cinema field after failing to win Hamas in the battlefield. And then they showed a link to the first episode of Fauda, first season. And I was shocked. I think that all of us were shocked.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. And by the way, has Prime Minister Netanyahu weighed in at all? Is there any sense that he's watching it secretly, or?
Bibi Netanyahu? Let's not talk about Bibi Netanyahu, please.
Okay. I can move on, but we may get a question from the audience. Okay,
But I'll tell you something, that I got a phone call from one of the highest ministers in Israel, who said that he wanted to participate in third season of the show. And we said no.
Oh, okay. No, thank you. Do you get feedback from Netflix of where this series is performing the best? I would imagine the United States and Israel are probably the number one and number two, but I'd be curious what kind of feedback you're getting from other parts of the world where it's playing.
We're getting feedbacks through the social media a lot.
Okay.
And we know...
That's the diplomatic way of saying Netflix doesn't tell us, right?
Right. No, we know, but we know that in Argentina it's huge, in Brazil it's huge. We know that people in Saudi Arabia watch it, Kuwait, the Gulf, everywhere. It's everywhere, really. It's one of the, I think, people watch it all over the world.
You know that Abu Ahmad, or Hisham Suleiman, the guy who plays Abu Ahmad in the first season, he got to Doha, to Qatar, and he sat down in the lobby of a hotel, 5-star hotel, and he told us that every couple of minutes someone approached him in Doha, in Qatar, and asked for a selfie with Abu Ahmad. and people from Iraq, from Lebanon, from Bahrain, from so many different places. Now, you might say, okay, he's the terrorist, they like him over there. Then he was shooting for another TV show in a settlement that is called Kiryat Arba, which is not like the most moderate settlement on earth, okay? And over there in Kiryat Arba, people were running at him like crazy just for a selfie with the most famous terrorist on earth back then of 2015.
That's pretty incredible. No, I may be incorrect about this, but is it not airing in France? There's 2 countries it doesn't air.
No, it's airing. Now it's airing. They show it in France in Cine Plus. It's another because we sold it to France before we sold it to Netflix.
Okay.
But
so it wasn't like a anti-Israel kind
no,
of
no,
sentiment?
no, not at all.
It's business, money.
Okay, got it.
We don't care about business.
No, not about the money.
So
We are in a Jewish center. We can laugh about it. Yeah.
So it is now finally airing in France,
Yes.
but what kinds of like surprising feedback have you received?
I'll tell you something that happened to me. When we sold Fauda to Netflix, I didn't know that it's become big in the US. So the first time I flew from Israel to Miami. And I don't know if you know, but as an Israeli, when you go through the immigration, it's quite scary. You know, you think they're going to interrogate you because, you know, I look like, it doesn't matter. And so I remember I went there, I was in line, and there was like an officer who was sitting behind the glass, and she was looking at me, she was staring at me, and I was so scared. I said, I thought that they're going to interrogate me, and I just walked there, and I just realized that I don't want her to talk to me, so I asked the guy in front of me to go there, and I will go there, because she was looking at me in a strange way. And then she looked at me and said, "You, come over here." And I was, what did I do? What happened? And I started to sweat, and she looked at me, stared at me, and she said, "What about second season of Fauda?" And so
That's the highest compliment.
yeah, but you know, I thought okay, it doesn't matter. It was funny, yeah, it was funny.
Has there been any approaches made to you to do to buy the remake rights for English language, like the way Homeland was originally an Israeli show in Hebrew and then became an U.S. show? Have you received those kind of overtures?
This is what we had in mind when we started the road. And it was a kind of a very interesting journey. I don't know if we have the time to talk about it.
Yeah, like, I mean,
journey.
you want to, please.
It started around 2010 out of a kind of an accidental meeting between Lior and I somewhere not far from Ramallah. And we were watching a group of undercover soldiers finishing a course. And over there, you know, I asked Lior that I knew him since childhood, like really since we were 16, 17, and we both had long curly hair.
Yeah.
And a bit taller.
Yes.
And nicer, yeah. And I asked him if he has a dream. And Lior said, I thought about writing something about these kinds of units. And I said, you know what, I thought about the same direction, let's meet. And we met and we talked, and suddenly we came with an idea of a TV show. Then we went to sell it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It wasn't easy at the beginning.
No, nobody wanted the show. You know, in Israel, we went to the biggest broadcasters in Israel, and Keshet, Reshet, and we went to Keshet, and they said, they looked at us and said, show about Arabs and Jews. Who want to watch this show?
It's so boring.
Yeah,
really.
They asked if we have comedy. If we have comedy about Arabs and Jews, they will buy it. And we said, we are not comedians, so...
I'm a funny guy.
You are a funny guy. Yeah. And then we went to Channel 10, Channel Reshet, and Reshet didn't want it. And then Channel 10 said, it's an amazing show, beautiful show. We really, really want to do it, but we don't have the money. And then we went to Yes, and Yes, actually, we had this presentation, amazing presentations, right? You remember?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you remember it as amazing. I think that it was kind of difficult because there was one man in the room, 3 women, and the man was totally enthusiastic about the show, and he was the VP of content in Yes, and he was really into it, and the 3 women in the room were doing all kinds of faces and sounds like we didn't get it. Like, we really didn't get it, and we asked them what's wrong, and they said this is a show only for men. Women won't watch the show. And we said, why? They said all those explosions, what about relationship? What about... At the end, after they aired the first season of Fauda, they made a kind of a poll in Yes, and they found out that more women watch the show comparing to men.
Because of me.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
That goes to show that some of these people who have these jobs don't necessarily know what they're talking about. But
No, but listen, it's a gamble because this was the first show that me and Avi wrote. So we didn't wrote anything before. So
Right.
I can understand them.
It was a huge gamble for
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
and
a
they
huge
did it, and we love them. And we love Netflix.
and just so the audience knows, like, what is Yes? Like, I mean, it's like kind of comparable to
Like FX.
an FX. Okay.
Satellite company in Israel, the
Okay.
TV satellite.
Okay. And do the budgets for a series differ wildly versus? Okay.
Yes.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
No, like the whole 2 seasons cost like 1 pilot episode in an action TV
Right.
show in the US.
Like their craft services budget.
I'll repeat that again. The whole 2 seasons cost like 1 episode in the US
In
market.
But
America.
congratulations to you guys because it looks fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now Netflix knows you don't need money to spend to get a great show. So, no. But back to the question of, have you been approached to do sort of a
Yes,
English
so
language?
yeah, this is what we...
Or a movie. I was thinking a movie would
we
be.
really wanted, because in Israel there was Homeland, and it was Chatufim in the beginning, and in treatment that it was Betipul, the Israeli version, and we thought that this is the way that we can make it in America. If someone will will make like a remake for Fauda in the U.S. So we actually, a guy approached us, someone who's Oscar winner. He really wanted to write with us the show in English. But then Netflix bought us, and I think this is what's so amazing, because it's so successful, but it's the original material, and it's not something that, American actor will act like Doron or someone else, or an undercover.
It shocked us at the end of the day. It's really shocked us that it became successful in the world, not only in the US, but also in other parts of the world. And for us, one of the major things was about being authentic, just like we discussed before, keeping the Arabic, keeping the Hebrew. And then you understand that people love to hear different languages, foreign languages, Arabic, Hebrew. They don't want to hear the dubbed version, for example.
Right.
They insist on listening to the Arabic and the Hebrew versions and watching the subtitles, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just to see how like a different, what a hospital looks like in a different part of the world, or sometimes like seeing everyone smoke on screen feels like I'm time traveling, because like in America, like you never see that anymore. So
Yeah, but in Israel, more people smoke, and in the West Bank, much more people smoke. And I'm still traveling the West Bank as a journalist, so I see that. So yes, we smoke a lot in the show. Doron.
Yeah.
Doron smokes like crazy,
Yes.
but only in the show.
Only in the show. But, yeah. I'll tell, we just discussed it before, and when we wrote the show, I didn't smoke, I quit smoking. And I remember I wanted to smoke so much. So every scene that we wrote, I said, now he's smoking a cigarette. And now he's smoking another cigarette. And he asked for a cigarette from someone else. And this is why Doron smokes so much.
So half of the budget of the show was about cigarettes.
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. Now, I don't know how much of a movement this was, or if it was just a couple of headlines, but there were some efforts to get Netflix to drop it as part of the people who are in the Divest from Israel movement. First of all, what do you say to the critics who want a show like Fauda to be dropped from Netflix because it's
This is
Israeli.
wrong. This is a mistake. And
It's not just a mistake, it's ridiculous, really. What the BDS movement, it's like they don't want to take the show out from Netflix. They just want to take us out from Israel. And I think it's much more than that. And I think it's really ridiculous.
but it was a kind of a good PR for us.
Yeah, we liked it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, like it ends up kind of giving some needed or, like tension to the situation.
Yeah, totally. But then again, you hear these voices, and it's fine, to hear the critics. It's fine to get those, even negative critics. Some. I just read something in, never mind where, but one of these newspapers that wrote about us that we don't show the real occupation, and even the checkpoint in Fauda looks like a checkpoint between the Netherlands and Belgium, something like that. And the guy who wrote it doesn't know that we shot it in a real checkpoint in Israel. And it's ridiculous. And I read it and I think, like, when was the last time that this guy visited the West Bank?
Right, if ever.
Yeah.
That's, I find that sometimes the biggest critics of things are the people who sort of have the least knowledge of a situation. And kind of like, over there. But there is a very sort of, speak to this issue of anti-Israel sentiment can sometimes it's like, obviously people can have it and be informed and say opinions, but it's a sort of socially acceptable way to be anti-Semitic, I find, in some countries.
What do you think?
She's right.
Okay. You're right. Look, then again, I think that much of the critics, the negative ones, on Fauda weren't about Fauda as a TV show. They didn't say it's a bad acting, they didn't say it's a bad directing, or the shooting wasn't good and the music was bad. No, they had a political issue with the state of Israel, with the occupation again. But then again, this is a TV show. Come on, let us watch the TV show. And if you have your criticism about the TV show, say it. But they didn't say it. And I think that instead, I think that even the critics, even the negative ones of them, what they wrote, well, the occupation, the Palestinians, the Israelis, la, 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 but you cannot stop binging the show. And so...
in terms of, would you potentially do a Fauda film? Like a 2-hour version where you could...
We're writing now 2 new TV shows for Netflix. We're writing 3rd season of Fauda. And we're writing...
When do you go into production?
And we're writing a new movie, not about Fauda. So I think in the next 3 years we cannot write anything else.
Except you are so busy as a journalist, Avi.
As a journalist and as a future actor also. I mean, I don't know if
the
folks
audience
here watch,
has seen your...
I'm going to do a spoiler here, but at the 2nd season of Fauda, I'm on a kind of a big role on the 10th episode. In a barbershop, I swear, really, it's in a barbershop.
I think we have some people who definitely have gotten that far in the season. And so, Lior, tell us a little bit about your acting career outside of
Fauda?
Yeah.
So
I know you're in Mary Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene, and it's a movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara.
Yeah.
I had small part, nothing to write home about. But now I finished a movie, MGM movie called Operation Finale. Mm-hmm. It's about the capture of Eichmann. It was in Argentina. We shot it in Argentina with Ben Kingsley, Oscar Isaac, Melanie Laurent, and I played the head of the Mossad, Issacharoff. So, and now we have a lot of options, many options, and in our new shows on Netflix, I'm going to play the lead role as well. So our hands are full.
Okay,
yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your time in the IDF Special Ops, which I assume is sort of akin to in the U.S. the Navy SEALs. Is that sort of?
Not in
No,
Navy
okay.
SEALs, no.
But you go
We're
in
better.
and you.
We're better. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, it's not the Navy SEALs. It's like the Navy SEALs, like a commando, special forces. In the unit that I used to serve, it's an undercover unit who's doing quite similar thing that you see in the show, more or less. That's it.
How long were you?
3 years mandatory, and then in the reserve for I think like till 5-6 years ago.
Okay. And can you give a specific or just an anecdote from your time that isn't too painful to relate, but just something that I just am fascinated by what it would be like to be.
I don't think that I can.
I think that you need to be a good actor.
Yeah, first of all, in order to be in this undercover units, you have to be an amazing actor. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Because if I will act not so well in this Operation Finale movie, in the Hollywood Reporter, you will write about me, he's a bad actor.
Yeah.
But on
But
field,
then you'll be.
Here you.
on field, you have to act for your life. And if
Yeah.
you're not a good actor, you can die. And your friends can die. And a terrorist that you run after for a long time can run away just because of your bad acting. If you don't have the right accent, if you are a little bit scared, if you don't know how to move, and the body language is different. So you have to be an amazing actor in order to be in this kind of special forces. And also you have to be like an Iceman.
Like a what?
Iceman.
Okay, yeah, like
Yeah,
to
you
keep
say
calm.
that?
Like,
Yeah.
did you have like breathing techniques or?
This is when I'm doing yoga. I have this breathing technique, not on field. Yeah, it could be funny to be in Nablus and
Yeah.
Just,
While you're serving the baklava at the wedding.
Yeah. No, so no breathing techniques. But no, you have to be, just imagine yourself that you go out on the field and you are surrounded by terrorists and you speak in a different language, you have a different body language, and they're telling you in the radio, we don't know where is the terrorist, just do something. And then you have to do something, and when you do that, you start to smoke, you go and buy coffee, salam alaikum, atini ahwe, it's in Arabic, give me coffee please. And then in the radio, they're telling you he's just behind you, but you just got the coffee and and he asks you if you want it with sugar or not. And you say, yeah, with sugar please. And they're telling you in the radio, you have 9 seconds, 6 seconds. So you say, thank you very much for the coffee. 4 seconds, 3 seconds, and then you get the go, and you just like become like a combat dog.
And it's a bad coffee.
It's a bad coffee.
Yeah.
No, so this is what I mean when you say you have to be an Iceman.
Yeah, like just like no.
Yeah, I think that what we did in the show is that we took many of the experiences on the ground, many of the memories that Lior had, many of the experiences that I had as a journalist from visits in Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, meeting with Palestinians, officials, non-officials, citizens, Hamas leaders. I have a great picture in Facebook back in the time with Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas in Gaza. And what we try to do is to take all these stories, all these experiences, and to put them on the screen, to put them on our TV show. And it wasn't that easy, I must say. I mean, some of the experiences were very hard. Mm-hmm. Some of them were very sad. I don't know if Lior wants to share that here, but it wasn't easy to get all those experiences and memories out there on the screen and to talk about it and to discuss it and to discuss about the price that these soldiers at the end of the day are paying, to discuss the price that the families of the terrorists are paying. Usually when you talk about the terrorists, you only mention, hey, it's a bad guy, that's it. He wants to kill this and that. But it's very rare to see what happens with his family, right, with the wife, with the kids, when the IDF storms their houses, when the Shin Bet is arresting them to investigate, to interrogate them. So it's not easy. And what we were trying to show, more than anything else, is the price of the war in both sides.
would you say is the biggest misconception people have about Gaza, like that have not visited? You've obviously spent a lot of time there.
It's a great place, I must say. No, really, I know that I haven't been there for the last 11 years. I'm not allowed to go there anymore since 2007. But that was one of my favorite places on earth. I mean, as a journalist, every time that I went there, there's a great beach over there, there's great food, amazing people, funny, warm, etc. But every time that I went there, something crazy happened. Really, I mean, like bombing and killing and assassinations, and it was like heaven for a reporter. Really, I mean, every time that you go there, boom, something happens. So, and you just need to be there on the ground, and you have so many different experiences. I'm gonna speak shortly about one of them, because that gave us also the idea for the name of the show, Fauda. You know, Fauda means chaos. And why did we choose this word? Also because of what the Israelis report when they are being exposed on the ground. But sometimes from the Palestinian point of view, you know, there was chaos on the streets of Gaza and the West Bank. And I remember myself in Gaza going with a group of law and order people patrolling the streets of Gaza in 2006. And then we stopped and talked and chatted, and one of them was saying that they've been working 24/7, and I asked him, how come? I mean, when do you go to sleep? And it's a law and order guy. And he said, we do not go to sleep. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he put his hand into his pocket, pulled out a pill, and he showed it to me, and he said, we take that, and it gives us a lot of energy. And I was like, what do you mean, energy? What is this pill? And he said, well, it's called ecstasy. And this is the equivalent of the FBI in Gaza back at that time.
Right.
And I said, but do you understand that this is drugs? He said, yes, but we have to stay awake in order to fight, in order to work, blah, blah, blah. Then he asked me, Avi, how much does this cost in Tel Aviv? I said, I don't know, but I can find out if you want me to. So he said, please do. So I called someone, a specialist.
Me.
And the specialist told me it's 50 shekels. So I closed the phone and I said 50 shekels each. And his eyes were like that, and he said, if I would give you 2,000 pills for 30 shekels, would you take that? And since then, we've been smiling, Lior.
Yes. Loving and smiling and rich.
And awake.
Yeah.
All right, so here are some questions from the audience. Will there ever be peace, and is a two-state solution possible?
We need to answer that? We have hope. We have hope. Okay? We have the hope that we'll have peace one day. And when I see the relationship between Germany and Israel, when I see the relationship between Japan and the US, when I see the relationship between England and Germany, I have hope that one day, and they had like a big wars, not like the Palestinians and the Israelis, one day we'll have peace at the same way that we have between Israel and Germany. And
Okay.
I'm in a way more pessimistic, and in a way also optimistic, because the two-state solution is irrelevant today. It doesn't really exist. And at the same time, there's no other solution. So I think that this is why we still hope that one day there will be a two-state solution.
Okay. Where does the Israeli creative spirit come from?
the what?
Israeli creative spirit come from?
Spirit?
Yeah.
The inspiration.
Yeah.
This sort of like, you know, depicting in television.
Yeah, we understand the question. So, first of all, I think you have to be very creative in Israel in order to live. And I think in Israel, when you live in Israel, it's just like this is the question. It's about why we are a startup nation, and I think it's the same what happening in the technology now happening in the culture scene in Israel, in the TV and movies, and because we're succeeding now all over the world, not just me and Avi, and I think it's because for us, I know Avi, I'll tell you an example. When we were together and we went to sell the show, and I told Avi, we went down, and they said no, Keshet said no, and we went down, and I said to Avi, listen, they understand television, they know television, probably our show is not so good, our idea is not so good. And Avi looked at me and he told me something that we used to say in the army. I'll say it in Hebrew and then he will translate it to English. He said, Ma ta yalda? So, Ma ta yalda, what, are you a girl? And it's an army way of speaking. And for us, we don't see...
Actually, I said, maybe you are wrong.
No, I think we don't see obstacles, you know? Because when we see an obstacle, we go forward. We don't see, we have to create a way to surround, to go behind him, to go above him, under the obstacle. And I think this is why we have to be creatives all the time. And I think the experience in the army gave us the knowledge how to be creative as well.
Okay. I'm curious also if there's something to be said for just that speech does not seem to be ever repressed. Like people have the freedom of speech in Israel, it seems like even more so than in other Western countries. Like, for example, if Netanyahu hated your show, he's not going to try and get it off the air or anything. There doesn't seem, you don't see that, whereas you do see that in other, that there will be more of a sort of like, I find this uncomfortable, get rid of it in other countries.
No, it's not the case. This is not the case. But anyway, we love Netanyahu, just, but we love him. So, no, it's not like that. Israel doesn't suffer from this kind of a censorship. I mean, there is military censorship more about the journalism, but not about TV shows or dramatic TV shows.
Right. Yeah, and I would think that that lends itself to the creative process, like not being like, okay, we can do whatever we want. No one's going to pull us off the air.
No.
Okay, how about for viewers that know little about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, what do you hope they gather, understand about the climate? This is from Natalie. I like when people write their names with the questions.
So, what was the question? Sorry, Natalie, I didn't...
What do you hope that the average viewer who perhaps knows very little about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, what they will take away about?
I think what Avi said in the beginning, that we wanted to talk about the price that people paying, mental price and physical price, and how is it to live in a war zone, and it's not so easy, and we want people to understand that war is bad. That's it.
I think that one of the aims of the show was to show the complexity of the conflict, meaning, that many people in the world think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in very kind of shallow idea.
Simplistic kind of.
Yeah, but then again, it's a kind of an epidemic all over the world. Mm-hmm. Keep it simple. Be news or fake news. Be right or wrong. Be just like that. And you know what? As people that are living in Israel, as people that were there on the ground and still see things from very close, I think that one of the messages of the show is that it's not about that. Not at all. It's so complicated. And at the end of the day, there's so many different shades of this gray area of the conflict. It's so complicated to understand that sometimes the bad guy is a good guy and sometimes the good guy is a bad guy. And this is war. And war is not simple. And war is bad, but it's not simple.
Right. Okay. What is the symbolism behind Doron and his father speaking Arabic at home and your character feeling more comfortable speaking Arabic than Hebrew, even in Israel?
So I'll talk. If you saw my father, he is very similar to my real father in life. Really. Because my father speaks Arabic at home. He's from Iraq. When I grew up, he used to talk in Arabic at home, and I think Doron and there is a sentence that he's saying to Shirin, the father, one day. He's tell her, "We are Arab Jews." She asked him, how you speak Arabic so good? He said, "We are Arab Jews. There is Christian Arabs, there are Muslims Arabs, there is Arab Jews. We grew up in Iraq. My father grew up in Iraq. In my home, we were hearing Arabic music, Farid al-Atrash, Mozart, but it was together. And I think for those people, the Arabic language, this is their basic. This is their base. This is where they're coming from. And the culture, it's the same culture. And we are so similar. You know, when I'm going and I'm flying a lot and I'm traveling a lot, and the people that I'm getting connected immediately are people from the Middle East. Not Israelis, not just Israelis. Immediately, we have the same temper. And you know, we are very similar. We don't know that. People don't understand it, but we are very similar.
Okay. Here's a question. Do the Arab actors feel threatened by Palestinians or Arabs that denounce the show?
Not at all, no. I think that they're pretty much satisfied with being on the show. I don't think that any one of them regretted even 1 second that he was in Fauda, that now he's becoming more and more famous. You know, I think that Hisham Suleiman in the first season, for example, who played a Hamas terrorist, became huge in Israel. He's acting in other TV shows. He's acting in theater, of course. And Firas Nassar, who plays El Makdasi in the second season, who's a brilliant guy, brilliant actor, 23 years old, that's it. And one of the craziest things that, you know, this guy is playing a terrorist in between Hamas and sometimes ISIS, and then Hamas, and then ISIS, like the worst guy on earth. Someone that, you know, his own society doesn't like him, his own family despise him for what he does. And in Israel, he became a sex symbol. I swear, really, he's huge. Women love him.
Avi, you used to say it about me.
Lior, you're my sex symbol.
And I was curious, was there ever tension on the set? Like if something in real life happened during filming that sort of like made everyone kind of like revert to their teams, if you
The opposite, I think, right?
Interesting, okay. That's really heartening to hear.
We used to, when we shot the first season, we shot it during the Gaza war. It was like, what the name of the operation?
2014 war.
2014, and Operation Edge, right? Protective Edge. And
Whatever that.
whatever, one of those wars that we had. And at that time, we had to shoot in Kfar Qasim. And Kfar Qasim, it's an Arab village in Israel. And I remember that we canceled the first day because we were afraid. We didn't know what's going to be there, how they will accept us. And I think at that night, one of the officials called us from Kfar Qasim, and he said, so don't quote me, but he said something like, when you asked to shoot here, you talked about coexistence. So let's talk about coexistence during war, because the missiles don't know if you are Arab or Jew. And at that minute, we had this decision that we're going, a day later, we went like 150 people, Jews, Arabs. We stayed there for a month and a half or 2 months in a bubble of creativity and love and care and honor.
With the sirens going on.
With the sirens, with the missiles. When there was sirens, Arabs and Jews, kids, not kids, we went together to the shelter to hide. And it was an amazing experience. I think everyone who was there in this summer will not forget it to the rest of his life.
Okay. Here's a question about somebody says that you've been getting criticized from a bit from Palestinian sympathizers and outlets like the New York Times. Are you guys going to try to be more sympathetic to the Palestinians in upcoming seasons? And do you believe you're sympathetic to Palestinians already?
I want to say something about it. We are Israelis. We're writing an Israeli show. The narrative is Israeli. Me and Avi, Zionists. I really want to tell to all those critics who ask us to make the Palestinians, to bring Palestinians writers, if Palestinians want to write a show, they should write a show. That's it.
Then again, it's pretty fun to have all those critics criticizing the show for the political point of view.
Of course.
Not from the TV point of view.
Yeah.
And from the TV point of view, I think that most of the critics agree that it's a good show. I think, 2017, the New York Times chose us to be one of the best 10 TV shows in the world. And for us, even, sometimes bad criticism is good for us. It's eye-opening and it's challenging for us. I think that for Lior and myself, we're coming for the third season from a very kind of an
Table? No,
open
you did.
table, like a page, like a white page.
Yeah, okay. It was a mime, so
yeah.
I thought it was.
In order to have even a better season for the third season, so it doesn't really get to our thoughts and minds like, hey, how can we be more sympathetic for the Palestinians, or maybe we should be more sympathetic for the Israelis? No, we want to have a good TV show. That's it. Simple as that.
Well, I think somebody asked, if you have somebody who keeps it fair and balanced, and I just picture, somebody, checking boxes, did we do an arc that, then you don't have a TV show. You have,
totally. Listen, this is not a political manifest. I know that it deals with politics, it deals with reality, but it's not a realistic show. It's drama, and I know that some people tend to forget that, and they say, hey, it's not for real, it didn't happen, what about this, what about that? And hey, it's fiction. If someone forgot that.
Yeah, okay. Somebody says, I'm so glad that Steve got his own story arc in season 2. He is a great character, agreed. How did you create Steve, and why does he have an American name?
Oh, that's funny. It's a funny question.
Yeah.
So in my team in the army, there is a guy named Steve. Real guy named Steve, and they are look-alike. They are the same, just the same.
But it's his nickname.
It's his nickname, Steve, because
his true name was Herzl.
His true name is Herzl, and also in the show we gave him the name Herzl. She asked him, "What's your true name?" and he say Herzl. But how he got this name, Steve? Because when he came to the team, he was just Herzl. And then there was a sketch in Israel about Israelis who lives here in New York. And the sketch was a guy calling and he say, hi, it's Steve. Steve calling. And they said, who's Steve? He said, Herzl, it's Herzl. It's about the Israelis who are changing their name when they are living here. So this is why we called him Steve.
Okay. Somebody asks, do you ever have to bend the truth, your experiences, in order to advance the plot? I think you answered that just when you said it's fiction, of course. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, listen, you won't see an Israeli undercover soldier falling in love for a Palestinian doctor. I know, but it's
an
not
Israeli
realistic.
soldier is not kidnapping a sheikh and torture him. It's not happening. It's a show. It's a TV show. That's it. Yeah. We're sorry. We don't do that.
No Romeo and Juliet, the Israeli-Palestinian version. But I'm curious, is there any intermarriage, in Israel?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
of course.
But what percentage of?
Low, very low.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the chance to meet a couple in a refugee camp called El Arub, right outside of, in between Bethlehem and Hebron. And over there, she was Jewish, he was Muslim, Palestinian, and they got married and they live in a refugee camp.
And also my Arabic teacher in Jaffa, his wife, she's Jewish, and he's Muslim. He's like Sufi. Sufi, it's kind of a Muslim way of living, and they live together. Their kids going to a school that they speak Arabic and Hebrew as well, and they have beautiful marriage.
What aspects of the show's setting or culture are the hardest to translate and show to foreigners?
We should ask the foreigners.
Yeah, whoever wrote that, no.
No, then again, it's very challenging because when we're writing the show, we're focusing on the Israeli audience. Then again, this is what we have in mind. We didn't think about writing a show for Americans, for Europeans, or whatever. We are just thinking about the Israeli audience. And then, when you take it outside, you understand that there will be some, not obstacles, but some misunderstandings, sometimes that you miss this point or that point. You try to make it as simple as possible in order that everyone would understand. But at the end of the day, I think that most of the people here and outside that watch the show manage to understand even the smallest things that we put in the show, even the smallest jokes that we put in the show. You know, we were criticized for being unpolitically correct. I think that was one of the greatest challenges because in Israel, we're less politically correct about everything. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I think that even about that, some people like this authenticity.
Is there concern you are giving away Army secrets? Well, you know what? Curious if anyone has ever said to you, you know...
Listen, we are...
You can't
the
do that.
censorship. We have censorship in Israel,
Yeah.
but we are the best censors because I used to be in this unit. This is my friends. They are my second family there. I wanted to protect them. We wanted to protect them.
You know what could hurt people.
We didn't show anything. If you open, if you go to YouTube, you write Mr. Arvim, Duvdevan, you will see things that we didn't put in the TV show. And you know what? I'll give you an example. We wrote about undercover when we go infiltrate into the hospital. And when we wrote it, you know, it's nobody. In my unit, we never did it. Never go in and infiltrate to a. It was from our side was imagination. And few months later, when the show was out in Israel, there was TV cameras that showed Israelis undercover getting into a hospital in Nablus, I think it was. So it was. No, you can read.
Okay. Why did you choose to make season 2 more graphic than season 1? And has ISIS commented on the show? Does ISIS review shows? I don't know.
They claim that the authenticity of the actor that played that. No, I'm kidding. It's not. They didn't. We tried to steal some of their actions to the show, of course. I mean, maybe they're mad at us for doing that, but sorry. I mean, we try to make it as very similar to what they like the sworn that El Maqdisi has to ISIS. We took it from a real sworn that jihadists are making for El Baghdadi, the guy that leads ISIS. So it's not that ISIS were mad at us or something. They're mad at us in general. I mean, they don't like us.
There's nothing season 3 could do to win them over. So,
Yeah.
How long does it take to shoot one episode? And do you shoot them in sequence or do you put scenes together in editing?
We're shooting it all at the same time. We can shoot scene in one day, scene from the first episode, and in the same day, we're going to shoot a scene from the last episode. It's like we do it by locations. So it's like we shot it in 3 months, I think, the whole season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the budget allowed 5 days of shooting or 5.5 days for shooting per an episode. That's it.
Okay. Now, you've already answered this to some degree, but given somebody wrote, given how poorly Israel is portrayed in most media and the enormous popularity and influence Fauda has, do you feel as Israeli patriots an obligation to change the way Israel is perceived by the world for the better?
I mean, this is not the show, okay? The show is not about hasbara. Our mission wasn't about improving Israel's image in the world. That wasn't that. And as I mentioned before, our aim was to bring a good TV show and to bring the audience to look at the conflict from a different perspective. But it's not that in our minds, everything that we had was about making Israel looking better in the eyes of the world.
Right. Okay. And somebody says, I applaud you for portraying Shirin as the most elegant, accomplished, sensual, sophisticated woman on the show. Was this based on a real story or person?
Nah.
By the way, she's great. I mean, Leticia Ido, the woman who plays Dr. Shirin, she's amazing. She doesn't speak a word in Arabic. She doesn't know a word in Arabic, and she learned everything by heart in order to speak in fluent Arabic.
Interesting. Lior, this would be one for you. What was the hardest scene to film? Love the show. Thank you for making it. Mariella.
The hardest scene.
We don't want to do any spoilers, but I think that episode 11...
Yes, and there was a scene in episode 11 that was very hard for me to participate in. It was like very emotional for me, but I don't want to spoil her. But I killed Avi in the barbershop.
That was a spoiler. Really, come on.
And then people want to know how much you smoked per episode. I think we covered that. I think we covered this. Do you know Palestinian-Israeli couples and how are they accepted? You talked about the beautiful teacher. So I think that that's pretty much, we've covered the audience questions, my questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yalla. Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you.